Incredible story revealed. How a maid's life-changing heroism for 3 millionaire kids uncovered a. Maria had always been the unsung hero in the Thompson household. At 38 years old, she was not just a hard-working maid. She was a force of nature. Every morning, as the sun peeked over the manicured lawns of their affluent suburban neighborhood, Maria donned her apron, ready to take on the world, or at least the Thompson home, with her relentless work ethic. She cleaned, cooked, and cared for 3 children, Emily, Jake, and Sophie, while her own kids, back in their modest apartment, waited for her to return, their laughter echoing in her heart. But everything changed when tragedy struck. One tragic afternoon, a car accident took Emily, Jake, and Sophie's beloved mother away from them. In those dark days that followed, grief settled like a heavy blanket, and the once vibrant home became filled with angry silence. Yet, amid the shadows, Maria stepped into the glowing light. With every meal she prepared and every comforting word she spoke, she offered them a lifeline. Maria wrapped them in her warmth, just as she did with her own children. In a way, she became their surrogate mother, tending to their wounds while hiding her own. As they sat together during dinner, she noticed the glimmers of loss in their eyes. Her heart ached as Emily, usually bright and bubbly, only picked at her food. Maria took a deep breath, reminding herself of the importance of hope and compassion. Even in darkness we can find a spark of light, she whispered, and she watched their faces slowly lift, if only for a moment. But Mark Thompson, their father, was lost inside his own grief. Struggling with corporate pressures at work, he remained emotionally distant. One sunny afternoon at a neighborhood picnic, a misunderstanding ignited an explosion. Maria had been nurturing the kids, perhaps too lovingly for Marcus' comfort, and in a moment of heated exchange, he raised his voice, echoing across the park. "You're not their mother. You're just a maid," he yelled, words that pierced both Maria and the kids like sharp knives. The chaos that ensued left everyone stunned. Emily, Jake, and Sophie stood trembling, torn between their memories of their mother and the undeniable warmth Maria had brought into their lives. As whispers swept through the crowd, Maria felt her heart plummet. A wave of discomfort washed over their family and friends. Old prejudices came bubbling to the surface, breeding tension between them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, the weight of sorrow propelled Maria toward courage. When a neighborhood boy faced relentless bullying at school, and Marcus' company failed to support him, Maria leaped into action, intervening like a guardian angel. Her bravery sent ripples through the community, showcasing not just her strength, but the true meaning of solidarity. In that moment, the Thompsons began to question their values. Could they learn from the woman they had misguidedly distanced? As Maria held her ground, she felt the shift in the air. Real love is an act of resilience, powerful enough to bridge even the widest gaps. She silently prayed that Mark and the kids would see the truth that wealth means little without love. Just as she thought of the bonds she had woven, Maria overheard whispers revealing that Mark had plans which could shatter everything they had slowly built. Would the truth bring them closer, or would it drive them apart? With her heart racing, she braced herself for the unfolding storm. The days following Marcus' outburst were intense. The air in the Thompson house was thick with unspoken tension. Maria worked hard, throwing herself into her routines, doing the things that had once made the home feel warm. Yet deep inside, she felt a cold pull toward uncertainty. She kept up the facade of cheerful efficiency, but every glance from Mark felt like a bandage being torn off a fresh wound. Emily, Jake, and Sophie sought comfort in her presence, despite the shadows threatening to suffocate their spirits. During late-night movie sessions that turned into tear-filled conversations, Maria made sure to remind them of their mother, smiling as they spoke of her quirks, the way she danced in the kitchen while cooking, and how she always sang off-key yet never failed to brighten their days. There was healing in those stories, and in her voice, they found a semblance of hope. But then came the day Maria learned what Mark had planned, and her heart sank into her stomach like a stone. Overhearing a conversation between him and a colleague, she discovered that he was considering moving away for a new job. Not just any job. It would take them hundreds of miles away. It would mean tearing his children from the only home they had known, away from their friends, away from the fragile family they were rebuilding. Panic gnawed at her. What would happen to the kids? They were like her own, and she had fought too hard to let them slip through her fingers now. A mix of helplessness and determination ignited within her, and she made a decision. They needed to talk. Mark. She stood before him one evening, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. We need to discuss your plans. He looked surprised, his brow furrowing. What plans? You know what I'm talking about. She pressed, her heart drumming in her chest. You're thinking about moving. His reaction shocked her. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration blooming in his eyes. I'm doing this for us, Maria. I have to provide for my kids. She shook her head, feeling like she was wrestling with the ghost of his late wife. What they need, what they really need, is you here in this home with them. Not a new job in a new city. His silence pierced through the air, the weight of her words hanging like thick fog, suffocating and heavy. Was he finally listening? Maria held her breath, praying for him to understand how vital these connections were. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours before he spoke again, his voice low, almost breaking. And what about you? You think I'm going to uproot everything including you? Maria felt a crack form in her heart, realization dawning that he still saw her as an outsider. But she refused to back down. Your children love me, Mark. I am here for them, just as I would be for my own. Family goes beyond blood. If you pull them away now, it will hurt them in ways you can't imagine. The room echoed with the truth of her words, the reality of their situation hanging in the silence like a heavy weight. Would he finally see her as part of their family? But before he could respond, a loud crash came from the other room. Jake's anguished cry filled the air. Both of them rushed to see what happened, their conversation momentarily forgotten. What they found shattered in more ways than one. Jake was on the ground. A broken picture frame lay nearby, and the faces of his laughing siblings stared back from the shattered glass, now fractured and irreversible. What started as a simple fall had opened old wounds, and for all of them, it felt like the world was crumbling once more. Maria's heart raced as Jake sobbed, unable to grasp the significance of what he had broken. In that moment, the truth of their family was laid bare. Could they mend this? As she knelt to comfort him, she felt Mark's presence beside her, tension simmering beneath the surface. Would they find solace together? A quiet decision hung in the air, a sense of resolve that it wasn't just about mending a frame. It was about mending hearts, but could they do it together? The next step she knew they had to take weighed heavily on her. Would it come to light before they were irrevocably fractured? And could their journey toward healing start from this very moment of chaos? As Maria knelt on the floor, cradling Jake in her arms, the world around them faded. The echo of his sobs filled the room, each sound a needle pricking at her heart. She tried to soothe him, whispering words of comfort, but a part of her felt just as broken. The shattered frame mirrored the chaos inside them, punctuating the cracks that had formed in their fragile family. Mark stood a short distance away, wrestling with his own emotions. He watched his son, the boy he loved more than anything, completely overwhelmed with guilt. In that moment, Maria could see the wall he built around himself beginning to crumble. She wanted to reach out to him, to assure him that they would all get through this together, but her voice felt trapped in her throat. Jake, look at me, she said softly, gently lifting his chin to meet her gaze. It's just a picture. We can fix this just like we can fix how we feel inside. You didn't mean to break it, honey. His wet cheeks glistened in the dim light, and as he buried his face into her shoulder, something shifted. Mark took a step forward, drawn by the rawness of the moment. It was as if the tides had turned. The weight of his decision loomed larger than the loss of a photo. "You're right, Maria," he admitted, his voice cracking. I don't know how to provide for them with everything that has happened. I feel lost." "You're not alone, Mark," she urged, her heart filled with a flicker of hope. "We can be a family. I'm here, and the kids, they need you now more than ever. Together we can figure this out." His gaze dropped to the floor, the tension coiling tighter. The silence wrapped around them, heavy yet charged with unspoken possibilities. She could see the doubt woven into his thoughts and knew that the struggle was far from over. "I just thought," he shook his head, anguish crossing his features. "I just thought leaving would mean a fresh start, a chance to escape the pain." "Running 1T help," Maria said, her voice steady despite the tempest swirling within her. "Pain is part of life, but so is love. You have to choose the hard path sometimes." Jake lifted his head slowly, as if processing her words. The quiet power of their exchange began to resonate within him, and in that vulnerable space, a sense of unity started to form. Perhaps this was the moment where something could finally shift. She reached for the scattered pieces of the frame, gathering them one by one, and Jake joined her in the task, his small fingers trembling as he picked up the shards. Mark knelt beside them, eyes glassy but focused, ready to confront what lay broken before them. Maria said, attempting to lighten the atmosphere, "This looks like a puzzle, and puzzles have a way of showing us how to fit back together even when it seems impossible." Jake blinked back tears and managed a small smile, and even Mark's features relaxed for a fleeting moment. Perhaps it was something to cling to, a thread that could stitch them back together. As they cleared the last of the glass, a fresh sense of determination filled the air. They didn't have all the answers, but together they might just be able to find a way forward. Mark finally took a deep breath and looked directly at Maria. "What if we confront this together?" The move, talking to the kids about it. Her heart raced. The discussion weighed heavily, fraught with uncertainty, but also possibility. They weren't out of the woods yet, but this moment, right here, marked the beginning of their journey. As they stood at the edge of a new chapter, Maria knew that the hardest conversations were still ahead. And while the way forward was unclear, one thing felt certain. Healing starts with acknowledging pain, and perhaps, together, they might just discover strength they never knew they had. But even as they pressed on, shadows loomed. Would Mark's longing for a clean break cloud their efforts to reunite? What would happen next when they opened the door to a conversation they had been avoiding for so long? The sun dipped low, casting warm hues through the window as Maria gathered her thoughts. The heat of the day's emotions still clung to her like a heavy blanket. She was acutely aware that the real conversation was just around the corner, lurking like a storm at sea, and it wouldn't be easy to navigate. "All right, let us sit down," Maria suggested, forcing a calm that she barely felt. She motioned for Jake to join her on the couch. Mark took the other side, the space between them filled with lingering tension. This was their moment, a chance to steer back to safety. "What are we going to tell them about moving?" Mark finally broke the silence, his voice steady but shadowed with concern. "Do we really think they'll understand? I don't want to hurt them, and we should be clear about what is happening." Maria's heart quivered. "We have to be honest," she replied softly, "but I think we should start with why we're moving. Another job might mean we're okay together." She wanted to believe it, to weave her words into a tapestry of hope. Jake, still unusually quiet, twirled his fingers in his lap, his small face marred with worries that mirrored those of his father. "Will we have to leave the house? And our friends?" The question hung heavy, flicking open the door to Maria's deepest fears. Mark hesitated, glancing at Maria as if searching for an answer. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the urge to protect his son at odds with the weight of their reality. "Moving can be scary, sweetie," Mark finally said, swallowing hard. "But we'll find new friends. Friendships can change, but family stays strong." A flicker of resolution passed between Maria and Mark, threading their resolve tighter. "Can we have a bigger yard?" Jake interjected, hope flickering as he envisioned a space to play. This sparked an unanticipated smile from Maria, cutting through the heaviness of the moment. Yes, a big yard, she chuckled, warmth flooding the room. One where you can ride your bike and play soccer. Wherever we go, we can make new memories. Their shared laughter echoed like a breakthrough, touching something in Mark that had felt barricaded. We'll build a new home together, right? He added, leaning toward Jake. Together. Jake cheered, a smile reaching his eyes, the gleefulness of a child illuminating the dimness they had been wrapped in. Suddenly, the air felt lighter, even if only for a moment. But Maria felt a shift not only within Jake but also between her and Mark. The solidarity was blooming, but it was fragile. They had only scratched the surface. It wasn't just about information. It was the fears and feelings often tied within those words. Guys, she said, her voice dropping to a more serious tone, it's also about how we're feeling. Leaving is hard for all of us, but talking about it might help. Mark nodded, the weight of his own burdens now more pronounced on his face. I have to admit, he began, moving closer to the edge of his own facade. I'm terrified. What if it's a mistake? What if we can't handle it? A gentle silence enveloped them as the question floated. It was real, raw, and resonated with fear that gripped the heart. Maybe it's okay to be scared, Maria said softly, offering him a glimpse of understanding as her heart tightened. But we can face it as a family. We'll figure it out together. But deep down, she felt the shadows still lingering, whispering doubts about Mark's resolution. If he faltered, how would they hold on? Would the fear of making mistakes push them apart again? As they sat there, dawn breaking through dusk, they all took a moment to breathe in the possibilities. Jake shifted, resting his head against Maria, sensing the energy flickering between his parents. It dawned on her that they were in this new journey together, but the path seemed fraught with crucial developments that could alter their course forever. Would their unity hold strong when faced with the trials of a new life, or would the fractures return? Maria felt tension not in her stomach as uncertainty loomed, urging them to continue the conversation. With a deep breath, she asked, so what do we really want after we move? What dreams do we have? The question hung in the air, heavy, and filled with the promise of exploration. What dreams were tucked away beneath the weight of uncertainty? What paths would they choose if they dared to dream together? The silence stretched thick around them, a moment suspended in time. Maria could see Jake's little brows furrowing, his innocent heart unaware of the complexities swirling about him. She wanted to shield him, to protect the light in his eyes from the shadow of their worries. What if we get a treehouse? Jake piped up, breaking the stillness, as if he could lead them down a path of imagination. I want to climb high and have secret meetings. Mark and Maria exchanged a glance, the corners of their lips twitching upwards. I love that idea, Maria exclaimed, her heart swelling with warmth at their boy's spirit. But maybe it could be in that big yard you want? A treehouse fit for adventures. Yeah. And we could have real meetings like pirates. Jake's eyes danced with enthusiasm, and for a brief moment, the weight of the impending change lifted. Mark chuckled, the echo of Jake's laughter filling the room like music. Pirates, huh? Just promise not to make any enemies like Captain Hook. That would be a great life. Jake laughed, imagining swashbuckling and sun-soaked days filled with play. But as quickly as the laughter began, the seriousness returned. Maria shifted back in her seat, feeling the knot tighten in her stomach anew. We should think about everything we're leaving behind too, she said carefully. What will we miss the most? Mark's brow furrowed deeply. I think we'll miss this house, the memories. His voice softened, the weight of the past drifting into his words. The mornings in the kitchen, the way the light hits the dining room when we have breakfast together. Maria felt a pang at his reminiscence. Those memories were their foundation, the laughter, the late-night whispers, and even the arguments that somehow stitched them closer together. And what about Grandma? She asked gently. Jake's going to miss her the most. Can we still visit her? Jake's voice broke, the innocent question pulling at Maria's heart. The thought of leaving behind comfort made her stomach twist even more. Of course, buddy, Mark reassured him. We'll make sure we come back. You'll see her too, he added, a hint of uncertainty trailing his words. But will she be okay? What if she gets sick while we're gone? Jake pressed on, his eyes wide with worry. Maria fought back tears. This wasn't just about moving, it was about the fragile tendrils that connected them to their loved ones. Moving doesn't mean we have to say goodbye forever, she assured, her voice steady. We are just finding a new home, and with time we can bring everyone together. Mark nodded, his grip on Jake tightening momentarily, as if to signal that they were all in this journey together wherever it might lead them. What if we take things from here? Something special? Jake suggested, shifting on the couch, his expression hopeful. A big picture of us and the dog? Maria smiled, the thought of dragging a big photo along in a box almost absurd yet sweet. That is a great idea. And maybe a little piece of your room too? Like my dinosaur? Jake's face lit up again, joy flooding his features, making Maria's heart swell with gratitude for the little moments of light they found amidst the storm. Yes, your dinosaur. Mark laughed, his spirit lifting too. But we all have to decide to let go of some things to make space for the new. As the conversation continued, something unshackled within Maria. A flicker of hope that perhaps their journey would be filled with more than just moments of fear. With a newfound determination, she asked, what about goals? The eyes of both her boys turned to her. What goals do we have for our new life? A silence enveloped them once more, ripe with the weight of the question. Each of them lost in thought, each hopeful yet terrified of the unknown. Can we find the biggest ice cream shop ever? Jake asked suddenly, breaking the focus, laughter bubbling through their thoughts once more. Absolutely, Mark exclaimed, rising to the challenge as they all leaned in together, dreaming of adventures and icy delights waiting just beyond their current home. But Maria, still wandering in her thoughts, understood that the road would be bumpy. They were not just packing up furniture. They were packing up dreams, memories, and fears that had woven their lives together. As she looked at her boys, Maria whispered, no matter what, we'll stay a family. With the weight of uncertainty still lingering, a question hung above them. Could believing in dreams become their greatest strength as they transitioned to a new life? What awaited them on this journey? What dreams would become their guiding stars as they moved ahead? The next morning, the rays of sun poured through the kitchen window, casting a soft glow over the table. Maria stood at the counter, her heart fluttering with anticipation and concern. Today was the day they would begin packing up their home, the familiar walls around her filled with echoes of laughter and warmth. Each bubble of excitement was tempered by the bittersweet taste of goodbye. Jake entered the kitchen, still in his pajamas, his hair a tangle of sleep. What are we doing today, Mommy? He asked, his small hands rubbing his eyes. We're getting started on the move, sweetheart. We'll pack some boxes and maybe go through your toys, Maria said, forcing a smile. Jake's brow knitted in worry. Do we have to get rid of everything? Maria knelt down, meeting his gaze. We'll keep the things that mean the most to us. We can even take some toys to donate to kids who need them. As a way to share our memories. Okay, can I keep my dinosaur? Jake asked hopefully, clutching the toy as if it were a lifeline. Absolutely, she chuckled, ruffling his hair. Mark joined them, stepping into the sunlight with a cup of coffee in hand. Ready for a big day, team? He asked, his voice filled with cheer. Definitely, Jake said, his energy sparking back as he gathered his dinosaur. With the breakfast routine behind them, they began tackling the first boxes. They filled them with toys, books, and knickknacks, each item telling its own story. Maria could see Jake's hesitance as he clutched his beloved things. But every so often, he surprised her by tossing something he thought would cheer someone else up. As they dug deeper into the corners of the house, memories flooded Maria's mind like the first Christmas tree they had decorated, or the time they all jumped into the muddy backyard after a storm, laughing like wild children. Nostalgia swirled with dread. She wished she could bottle up every moment and take it with her. Look, Mommy, Jake called from the living room, waving a photo album in the air. Here are all the pictures with Grandma. Maria could see the joy and sadness in his eyes as he flipped through the pages. Let us make sure we bring this, she said, her voice thickening with emotion. These are important memories. Mark joined them, flipping through the album as he recalled each snapshot. We should create a scrapbook as a family with all our favorite memories. We can add new ones in the new house, he suggested, his thumb resting on a picture of Jake at his 4th birthday. Will we be able to visit Grandma often? Jake asked suddenly, the worry creeping back in. Of course, buddy. We'll create new memories with her too. Think about it, she can visit us at the new place, Maria assured, her heart aching at the thought of Grandma's empty apartment. Once they had filled several boxes, they took a break outside under the shade of their old oak tree. Its branches swayed gently, almost in rhythm with the breeze. Jake lay back, gazing up at the leaves dancing in the sunlight. What if we find a tree like this at our new house? Maria and Mark exchanged smiles. That is a great thought. We can make even more memories there, Mark said, his hand resting on Jake's shoulder, feeling the warmth that came with hope. But underneath their laughter and dreams, a tangle of fears lay coiled in Maria's chest. What if it was all too much? What if they couldn't settle into the new house? Could they still feel like a family across the miles? With the evening drawing near and boxes piling high, they returned inside. The shifting shadows of the room felt almost too familiar, too painful to leave behind. Maria glanced around, biting her lower lip. Let us make a deal, she suggested. Each week until we move, we can pick a night to sit together and remember our favorite moments in this house. Yes, it'll be like a family tradition, Jake exclaimed, excitement swelling in him once more. And yet, as Maria watched her boys beam with newfound energy, she knew that a weight still hung heavy in the air. Can we hold on to the memories and still make new ones? She wondered aloud, the thought piercing through her like a sudden chill. Outside, the sun began to set, slipping away just as her heart ached for certainty. She took a deep breath, finding courage in the unknown, slowly learning to intertwine fear with endless possibility. Would their love be enough to guide them through this transformation? Would they truly learn to embrace the new life ahead? Jake's laughter filled the living room as he tossed his dinosaur into the air, jumping up to catch it. Maria watched, a twinge of happiness sweeping through her, but beneath it was a river of worries. How could they maintain this joy as they approached the unknown? Let us pack the kitchen next, Mark suggested, breaking her train of thought. His voice brought her back to the present, and she nodded, forcing the weight from her chest for just a moment. Together, they moved towards the kitchen, where the smell of yesterday's baking was still faintly lingering. Maria opened the cabinet doors, revealing the mismatched collection of plates, cups, and cooking tools that had seen seasons of preparation. They began carefully wrapping each item in newspaper. Maria smiled as they found the cookie cutters shaped like stars and hearts, reminders of Saturday afternoons spent in laughter. Jake was busy testing his newfound packing skills, cramming his plush toys into a box. Look, Mommy, I'm a professional packer, he beamed. You're doing a great job, she encouraged, feeling warmth radiate in her heart. However, just moments later, she caught a glimpse of their family calendar hanging on the wall. It was filled with little notes penned in different colors, marking birthdays, anniversaries, and milestones. It was almost as if the calendar itself was weeping, so many memories etched in time now being boxed away. Suddenly, she felt overwhelmed. Hey, why don't we take a break? She suggested, trying to keep her voice steady. Jake stopped, his brow furrowed, as if unsure if they should stop while there was still much to do. Can we go outside? He asked, his eyes shining with hope. A perfect idea. Mark clapped his hands, always ready to seize the moment. As they stepped onto the porch, the soft breeze wrapped around them like a comforting hug. The world felt alive, almost vibrant with possibility. Jake's laughter rang out once more as he darted into the yard, his spirit seemingly unaffected by the moving chaos that swirled within. Maria leaned against the railing, taking a moment to breathe in the fresh air. The sun was beginning its descent, lighting up the sky with hues of orange and pink. She spotted their old oak tree and felt a pang of longing. Its branches had stood witness to countless stories, and soon, they would leave it behind. "Mom!" Jake shouted, breaking her thoughts. He had found a ladybug crawling along the edge of a flower pot. "Look, isn't it beautiful?" His excitement was palpable, and for a brief second, Maria felt a flicker of hope. "Just like the memories we create, these little moments are a treasure," Mark said, wrapping his arm around her shoulder. "No matter where we go, we'll hold on to them. Just like Jake with his dinosaur." Maria smiled softly, allowing a moment of clarity. "You're right. As long as we're together, we can build our memories anywhere." That night, as they all gathered around the dinner table, a palpable sense of warmth filled the space. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced across their faces. They shared stories about their favorite moments in the house, loud laughter over burnt pancakes, sleepy cuddles on Sundays, and just little snapshots of life that made this place home. As they laughed, small shadows of fear faded momentarily. But as Maria tucked Jake in later that night, staring at the cluttered boxes lining the hallway, she wondered if the more profound change was just beginning. The walls might come down, but what about the foundations of their family? Would distance change the way they connected? Would they still tell their stories as freely? Her heart raced as uncertainty crept in again. What awaited them in the new house? Could it ever feel like home? Or would they always miss this one? As she lingered by the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest goodbyes were yet to come. Jake's soft breathing filled the room, and Maria watched as he drifted into sleep. She adjusted the quilt around him, her thoughts swirling with all the moments they had shared within these walls. The soft creak of the floorboards echoed in the stillness, a haunting reminder that this place was more than a house. It was a chapter of their lives. The smell of fresh paint lingered faintly as she walked down the hallway, past the boxes waiting to be moved. Each one felt heavy, not with belongings, but with memories. The laughter from the dinner table seemed like a distant echo now, fading away as she entered the living room. Mark was there, staring out the window, lost in thought. "Hey," she said softly, placing her hand on his back. "What are you thinking about?" He turned to her, a small smile forming. "Just everything. This house has been our home. It's hard to think of leaving it behind." "I know," she replied, her voice cracking slightly, "but we'll make new memories." Mark nodded, but she could see the worry in his eyes. "Do you think it'll be the same? The new house? Will it ever feel like home?" She sighed, sitting down beside him on the couch. "I want it to be. I have to believe it will be." They sat together in silence, the weight of impending change hanging in the air. Their time in this house was ending, yet the journey ahead felt daunting. As if sensing their unease, a sudden flurry of noise broke through the quiet, a playful bark followed by the patter of little feet. "Max!" Jake's delighted voice filled the room as he rushed in, the golden retriever bounding after him, tail wagging wildly. Maria felt a smile growing against her worries. Jake's joy was infectious. "You're supposed to be sleeping." Maria laughed, trying to sound stern but failing miserably. "But Mom, I heard Max barking. He thinks we're moving too," Jake replied, his eyes sparkling with mischief, and a sliver of light managed to pierce through Maria's heaviness. Mark chuckled, pulling Jake into his arms. "Well, Max is staying with us, buddy. He's part of the family. He'll be by our side no matter where we go." "Do you think dogs get sad when we move?" Jake asked, a sudden seriousness washing over his face. "I think they just want to be with us, no matter where home is," Maria said, her heart swelling as she watched father and son. "Just like us." They settled back together, each moment reminding Maria how quickly things could change. "Can we take Max on adventures in the new house, too?" Jake asked innocently. "Of course. Think about all the new places we can explore together," Mark responded, ruffling Jake's hair. "Yeah. We can make it a new home, with new adventures." Jake beamed, seemingly unfazed by the weight of the situation. But Maria couldn't shake off the sense of loss. That night, she lay awake, the shadows of her past intertwining with visions of the future. She wanted to hold onto the memories, yet embrace the uncertainty. Would the laughter echo the same way in their new home? Would they still find comfort in each other's presence amid the unknown? As the dark hours of the night stretched on, a sense of resolve began to settle within her. They would write their new story together, no matter where they landed. Maybe it wouldn't be easy, but together they could conquer the unknown. The sunrise came too soon, painting the world in soft pastel colors. The light poured in, illuminating the boxes and the faces of her family. Today marked their first step toward change. With a deep breath, Maria smiled and gathered them in for a morning hug. Let us make today the beginning of our biggest adventure yet. But as she embraced them, a lingering question pulsed in her mind. What if this change concealed something greater, something she was not yet ready to discover? The journey ahead carried both promise and uncertainty, and she couldn't help but wonder what awaited them beyond the future doors. Maria stood in the kitchen, the sun streaming through the window and casting warm light on the countertop. It was the bright start they needed. She pulled out a can of coffee, inhaling the rich aroma, and let the moment wash over her. Somehow, everything felt more vibrant today. Perhaps it was the promise of new beginnings. "Mom, can we help?" Jake's voice rang out as he bounded into the kitchen, Max panting happily by his side. Mark followed, a big grin spreading across his face, holding a box marked kitchen. "Sure, let us make breakfast together," Maria said, handing Jake an apron he always insisted was for super chefs. "Yay!" Jake exclaimed, slipping it on awkwardly. "What should we make?" "Pancakes!" shouted Mark, his enthusiasm infectious. Jake clapped his hands. "Can we put chocolate chips in them?" "Absolutely. The more, the better," Mark replied, ruffling Jake's hair again. As they worked, laughter filled the kitchen. Jake mixed the ingredients, his concentration palpable, while Maria prepared the frying pan, a comforting rhythm settling into place. With each sizzle, the smell of breakfast wafted through the air, wrapping them in a cocoon of happiness. After breakfast, they gathered in the living room, surrounded by countless boxes. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement and the occasional bark from Max, who seemed just as eager for the day ahead. "Today," Maria declared, "we'll explore the new neighborhood. We can find parks, trails, and maybe a cute cafe." "Yes," Jake shouted, eyes sparkling with the thought of a treasure hunt for new adventures. Mark exchanged a quick glance with Maria, and she felt the unspoken weight lift a little. "Let's make a list," Jake said, grabbing some paper. "We need to find the best places for Max, and maybe we can check out the coolest playground." That little spark of joy ignited something in Maria. Planning their adventure felt like a leap forward, a chance to infuse their new life with the excitement they needed. As they headed outside, the warmth of the sun touched Maria's skin, reminding her that change could be beautiful, like the blooming flowers around them. Jake raced ahead, pulling Max along, while Mark walked closely beside her. "I'm really glad we're doing this," Maria said, stealing a glance at her husband. "Just the three of us? And Max, of course." "Me too," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. "I think it will be good for us." Together, they explored the neighborhood. They discovered a small park with tall trees and a winding path where Jake could run and Max could play. Laughter echoed through the air, and for the first time in what felt like ages, Maria felt an ease in her heart. At one point, they found an ice cream shop, and she watched as Jake's eyes lit up at the sight. "Can we?" he pleaded, bouncing on his feet. "Of course." Mark laughed, pulling out his wallet while Jake jumped up and down in anticipation. Maria couldn't help but think about their new beginnings. The ice cream shop was just another part of the adventure, a sweet stop along the way. As she savored the ice cream melting on her tongue, she felt a rush of hope. Maybe moving wouldn't break them. Maybe it would make them stronger. But as they headed to their next destination, Maria felt a pang of hesitation creep back into her mind. What if this excitement masked something waiting to unfold? What if the challenges of the new life weren't just about adjusting to a new house, but something deeper? They took a path leading home, each of them lost in thought, excitement mingling with uncertainty. One step at a time, they were forging ahead. But what would the road reveal about their family? And as they turned the last corner towards their current home, Maria's heartbeat quickened. She didn't just want to face the unknown. She wanted to embrace it. But deep down, she wondered if the future would truly reward their brave leap into new territory, or if it held something that could change everything they thought they knew. The morning after their adventurous day exploring the new neighborhood dawned bright and clear. Maria stood by the window, watching the sun spill golden light over the familiar backyard. The joy from yesterday still lingered in her heart, but a sliver of apprehension tugged at her thoughts. Today was move day, the day they would leave behind more than just bricks and mortar. They would be stepping into a new chapter, filled with unknowns. Mark joined her, coffee in hand, his sleepy eyes twinkling as he glanced at her. "Ready for the big day?" he asked, his voice lifting in optimism despite the weight of the tasks that lay ahead. "I guess so," Maria responded, forcing the smile she wanted to feel completely. "I'm just trying to take it all in." Jake dashed down the hall, his energy infectious, arms swinging wide as he rushed into the kitchen. "This moving day, Mom. Is the truck here yet? Can I help?" Maria chuckled, her heart swelling with affection. "Yes, we'll need all hands on deck." After breakfast, they began the process of packing the last items. Each box felt like a step away from their memories, but with every tape sealed, Maria felt a strange mix of freedom and sadness. As the moving truck pulled into the driveway, she felt the weight of the moment begin to press down. "Let us go say goodbye to the backyard," she suggested, her voice trembling slightly. They stepped outside, the sun beaming down, and Jake immediately charged toward the oak tree. "This is where we had our picnics, Mom," he shouted, climbing onto a low branch as if he could reach out and hold onto the memories. Mark leaned on the fence, eyes reflecting nostalgia. "We had some good times here," he said quietly, wishing he could bottle them all up. "We did," Maria replied softly, taking a deep breath. "But think of all the adventures waiting for us." With a willing heart, she focused on the possibilities ahead. They gathered their energy, hearts beating as one, and waved goodbye to the home that had held them through storms and sunshine alike. As they loaded the truck, Maria noticed the bittersweet glances exchanged between her and Mark. This wasn't just a physical relocation. It was a profound transformation. Once the last boxes were on board, Jake squeezed Max and proclaimed, "We're taking the most important things with us, each other." "Yes," Mark echoed, his voice vibrant with newfound determination. He looked at Maria, and for the first time she could see clarity there. He understood, deep down, that home is where they would thrive together. "We won't just survive," Maria added, her heart strong. "We'll build a home filled with love, laughter, and even more adventures." As they climbed into the car, a wave swept over Maria, a sense of trust. She felt lighter than she had in days. The truck rumbled forward, leaving behind their past but carrying their spirits into the unknown. They rolled onto the highway, and each mile seemed to wash away old anxieties. The landscape shifted from familiar to new, and with every turn, Maria felt it was a battering ram against the barriers she had built around her heart. "Look, those flowers. They're beautiful," Jake shouted, pointing out the window. "Yes," Mark replied, his joy infectious. "Reminds me of those colors we saw at the park yesterday. Just think, every corner has potential." Maria laughed, cradling Jake's excitement in her heart. Every moment linked them to one another, binding them like the strings in a kite soaring high. When they finally arrived at their new home, Maria's heart raced. The house was bright and inviting, its walls a fresh canvas waiting for their stories. As they stepped through the door, a wave of warmth enveloped them, different but comforting. "Let us make the first magical memory," Mark cheered, and with that, they all jumped into the air, standing amidst piles of boxes, laughter echoing within the empty spaces. Days turned into weeks as they settled in, and while there were obstacles along the way, Maria felt herself evolving. Each evening, after filling the kitchen with the aroma of familiar family recipes, they would gather around the table. They recounted tales of their past to blend with new experiences, stories from the old home met with new ones forged amidst these fresh beginnings. Mark began connecting more with Jake, taking him on important father-son outings that grounded both of them. Maria found solace in her new community, meeting neighbors who would share their own stories and lives, weaving a rich tapestry into the fabric of their days. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky, Maria stood outside, taking a deep breath. She had watched the sunset in the other house, but this was different. It seemed brighter here. "Hey you," Jake called, bounding toward her, grinning from ear to ear. "Want to see my secret hideout?" She laughed, her heart brimming with joy. "Lead the way, brave explorer." As they ran through the yard, she marveled at how far they'd come. Their family unit had transformed, now filled with resilience and courage. The love they nurtured took root here, feeding off hope and laughter. In that moment, Maria realized that home was not about the bricks or the structure. It was where they were together, the blend of memories, transformation, and love that would forever lead them. With renewed appreciation for the magic of life and every twist of the adventure, she felt a radiant smile bloom on her face. They would continue building their dreams, each moment propelling them forward hand in hand. Today marked the first of countless adventures yet to come, with their laughter echoing against the backdrop of tomorrow, always reaching for the stars. Now this is the moment. You need to subscribe now to never miss these exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because it truly makes a difference. We want to hear from you. Comment your feelings about this heartfelt ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see this transformation. Your support means everything.